is up.
I don't have the agenda. I'm sorry. I thought this was the agenda.
Oh, no, it's okay. We can do this and then the rest kind of play by ear.
Yeah.
Last month's meeting, the minutes are up. If you guys can please read it and give me the approval when you're done. Or any changes.
That's it.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody was able to read that, but can we get approval of minutes, please? Anyone? Someone? Hit unmute. Hit unmute and just say, I approve.
I see Michelle Lee for 169 raised her thumb. So
Oh, it was like a thumbs up. We got one. Can we get another one? Please. I can't even see.
Oh, you got another one.
Oh,
is-
yay.
Oh, you got three.
Laura?
Approved.
Yay. Okay, let me stop sharing.
So
Okay.
we're a little bit, we're men down today, women down. Rachel is sick. She's not feeling well, so I hope she feels better. And Myrna just got out of surgery. So, we got 2 men down on a 5-man team, right? But with that, we'll make do. Welcome everybody to what month of we're in March already.
Close.
Welcome to March's meeting.
February.
So
February. You see what the break did to me? I'm jumping to March already. Welcome to February's meeting. And with that said, Dr. Mike, with your report, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Christine. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing okay. Hope you took some time over the break to try to recoup or at least connect with your kids in a little bit of a different way than during an actual school week, which means you probably need an extra week off just to kind of get yourselves back together after being with them for a week without school. At least I know that's what I'm thinking myself with my own 2 kids. But glad to see all of you guys. I'm going to go through a few things just in terms of in the form of updates. And then I'm going to give you overall patterns of district performance thus far. And something I just want you guys to cue in as parent leaders, which we talk about a lot, but I want to emphasize chronic absenteeism with all of you guys again, just in terms of making sure that we continue to push the mindset of making sure that our kids are in school every day. I certainly know that there are reasons why many times with illness, but I'm going to go into what the impact is, which is something that's really important for everyone to know. So let me just share my screen. Okay. I was on the wrong slide. So just a couple of reminders. We've gone over this the past couple of months, but now we're to the 3K pre-K admission window. It did start January 10th, closes March 1st, which is this coming Friday. So if we're just making sure that we're getting those messages out there for both 3K pre-K for this year. Offers will be released in May for both pre-K and 3K. G&T for upper grade admissions begins Monday, April 15th is when the application window opens, and Friday, May 3rd is when the application closes. Wednesday, June 12th is when offers will be released. Just a quick little recap and reminder, we do offer our monthly newsletter. The team works really hard on getting things from our schools to kind of showcase some of the work that they're doing on a routine basis. So I encourage you guys to kind of tap into that to keep yourselves abreast of what's happening on a routine basis at the district level. Part of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, some of our schools really engaged in some really, really nice work, including PS20, who is recognized here for some of the artwork that their kids put together in honor of Dr. King. So please make sure you check out the work that's posted. And certainly give suggestions as the year's going on for other things that you would like to see. in our newsletter, because it is something we do take pride in, and we want to make sure it's reaching you guys as best we can. This is just a space just for you guys to know. There is, we did do 2 safety workshops, one at PS20, one at JHS 185. They were both been recorded. We had the Department of Transportation come in to talk to our kids around bicycle safety, scooter safety. It was presented in Spanish and Spanish, Chinese, and English. So for any of your community members where they just need to remind their kids or for themselves an own little refresher, what we have seen, unfortunately, is an ongoing issue with our children and how they're using their bicycles, how they're using their scooters. And just as important, how our parents sometimes are coming to pick their kids up with either of those 2 things, bicycles or scooters, absent the, the protective gear that's necessary, and more so how they should be traveling on sidewalks or not. So DOT goes over all of that information. It's present there for all of you. And they do offer a variety of different opportunities for you guys as presidents of President's Council to bring up to the school, because they will come to your buildings and offer your own training supports for families as well as kids. They do in-school supports as well. Both of the gentlemen did a really great job of presenting to us on that day. Special ed parent opportunity. We did do this in late January. Just a quick reminder for you guys. It was also recorded for anyone that wasn't able to be there, but does have that do have questions around the classification process for understanding disability classifications and special ed eligibility. So for any folks that are not sure, this is a nice little space to point them to. It is on our district site. The link is here as well for anyone to have access to it. That's from the President's Council. So I encourage you guys to tap into these resources because they are helpful. Nathan did a really great job of presenting on that day. We also engaged in an iReady parent workshop. This was done at PS 107, so thank you to 107. We had iReady themselves come and present. This was also recorded as a means of giving parents information on the ins and outs of the iReady diagnostic assessments, where parents can go, what parents could expect from it. This is important in a number of ways. Often our kids take these assessments. Sometimes we're not always sure about what they are measuring. How do I use them as a parent? This is a good resource, but also for you guys as parent leaders, if you haven't engaged in something like this at your own school, this is something that we are encouraging, certainly at the district level, which is why we conducted one in our buildings, which often winds up resulting in them happening more widely across all of our schools. So this is here for you guys as well. Few other quick notes. Thank you to Nathan and Melinda for supporting the Spelling Bee. We have been hosting it over the past several years. Big congratulations to Jeffrey from 185, who was who earned first place in the Spelling Bee this year. And this is across our the borough of Queens. So congratulations goes out to him. And more on that moving forward as they go to the next round of the Spelling Bee. Project Soapbox is also tied in with Civics for All. Really love this work. I would love it if you guys are okay with it. And, Esther will touch base with Rachel too, to bring in some of our Soapbox speech presenters from our students. They do a ton of research to kind of take a stand. And that's really what they're able to do. And hearing our kids' voices and the things that they want to get accomplished, are certainly pique my interest because they have done the work. They have a great deal of knowledge to go along with that. So these speeches are ones that we do get a chance to record, and kids will be going to, to a central, a citywide type of competition where they're going to be able to compete against others that also have gone through the same process of developing a speech. So that's really, really good work. Parent District Leadership Summit. Esther, myself, Jenny, Shirley, and Wendy from the CEC, and Beverly all had an opportunity to come together at this summit. Was in Brooklyn, and from this summit, we established 3 areas that we want to really pay attention to. One is to continue to foster an approach where we're consistently making sure that language needs are being met during our meetings, whether it's our own district-wide ones, which is why you'll see Spanish, Chinese consistently supported, but also from the CEC's perspective, how do we make sure that all folks have access to our meetings? Kind of building engagement opportunities that are more relational. So it's not just come for a workshop, it's come with your kids or come to school, see your child in action, while you'll get a chance to learn how this is happening in our buildings. So the goal for us is to really build more relational type of events and activities for our families to engage with their children. And the last part, the DLT is looking to create subcommittees, which we already started to think about during our last DLT meeting. As we know, we're coming towards the latter part of Black History Month. Our schools are engaging in a variety of different activities and tasks and events. As the month has been going on, we've been accumulating this information, and we'll be sharing that during our next newsletter. Lunar New Year as well. This is something that many of our schools have organized around and engaged our communities in a variety of different activities and events. Thank you to our team members who participated in them in a wider range, one including supporting Kappa at the library in early February. So thank you, that big thanks goes out to all of our schools and community members for engaging in these events. World Read Aloud Day, super excited about this. One of our schools was identified to host members from the community. So you'll see there, Ms. Klager, who is a former principal in the district, as well as Shirley Aubin, who is the high school president of President's Council. And they engaged our kids in World Read Aloud Day. They read to them in classrooms, and you can see in the pictures in a large auditorium setting. It was really a very exciting day for our kids in our community. So I thank them for participating. Debate League, we have our first event is scheduled for tomorrow evening, afternoon into the evening. So thank you. Big thanks goes out to IS25 for hosting. One of the really amazing things that I did not include in here, but I'm going to shout it out. We had a student from IS25 place first at the competition in Harvard this past couple of weeks ago. So huge shout out to that young man for for not only showing up at Harvard, but showing how great of an experience that he's having at IS25 to promote that. So really excited about this debate work sponsored by our council member Palladino. Cyberbullying workshop, we'll be hosting one on March 5th. This I can't emphasize enough to our parents. Our kids at times sometimes have devices, and this is my own opinion, sometimes they have devices at too young an age where they're not mature enough. And unfortunately, sometimes if a parent is not paying attention, tend to do things that will get themselves into a lot of trouble. Once it's on the internet, it stays there in some way, shape, or form, and it can come back to bite them in the long run. And it's unfortunate to say that, but that is the reality when we put things online that are questionable. Let me just phrase it like that. So we just have to be mindful of it. So we are doing a cyberbullying workshop at the district level. We're encouraging all of our schools to engage in similar type of work with our kids, especially our middle schoolers. They don't always realize what they put up there until it's up. And then it's oh my goodness, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. We need to continue to engage them before we push send, we have to think about what we're doing. Because it, again, will get them into a space where we don't want them to be in. Math Madness, as part of that whole relational space, we're trying to connect our kids with our parents to do some pretty cool math activities and tasks. So we'll be hosting this at 4 separate locations over the month of March. IS25, PS 154, PS 209, and PS 20 will all be hosting events. This is open up to our community. What we have seen is that we have gotten a number of families from outside of the school that's hosting, which is really good. We want as many people to come as possible. So we're looking forward to Beth from our team to get these activities rolling inside of our schools. I know she's working really hard to make sure that there are some really cool events for our kids. And it very much ties into the message that I will have in a few minutes when I talk about the mathematics data. And lastly, just in terms of announcements, I do want the President's Council to know that we did put in a request for PS 169 and Bell Academy to be renamed, and renamed in honor of former council member Vallone, who unfortunately had his life cut short a few weeks ago. He did pass away about 3 weeks ago, very young age of 56. He was a very influential in our district community, but in particular PS 169 and Bell. So the PS 169 and Bell will not be losing their name. It'll just be kind of the overarching campus name will be the Paul Vallone Community Campus with PS 169 and Bell. So they keep their name, but the campus will be named after him, or that's what we have submitted for. So just so you guys are aware of that. Okay, into the data fund, which those of you guys know me know that this is something that is really important to me, is that we're making good choices about with the information that we have. So chronic absenteeism, we're on a little bit of a roller coaster. We started off really, really great in September, October, November, December, January, and into February. Our attendance has been slipping. Since then, more December, January into February, our attendance rates have been declining. So we were well over 95% as a district in terms of overall attendance. We are below 94% right now. Our chronic absenteeism rates are just under 20%, which is not where we want to be. And when you look at certain rates for certain subgroups, it's even higher than that. So what does it mean overall? So impact on reading performance. Children that are chronically absent perform almost 19.5% lower than students that are not chronically absent. With our own Acadians reading data for children in kindergarten through second grade. Impact on iReady reading performance is a 22% difference between children that are chronically out and those that are not chronically out. And this one is pretty staggering as well. iReady math, there's a 32% difference between children that are chronically out and those that are not chronically out. So the realities behind this is that, to me, is always logical that if our kids are in school and not in school, they can't learn, right? So we're going to continue to push the message. Our schools have teams that are working hard to make sure that they're engaging in our families on a routine basis. They're creating different morning activities, afternoon activities to promote, excitement for our kids, to really push their parents at times to get them into school, whether it's a morning breakfast program or basketball or soccer program in the morning or computer program. Our schools are really working towards that end. And I encourage you guys as parent leaders too, to think about ways that you can connect with our schools and our families to assist with that. The number of kids that are currently chronically out in grades 3 to 8 is over 2,000 children. There's a lot of students that are currently right now would be out 12 or more days already at this point of the school year, which is a significant part of the year. So I share this not to tell you that kids should be coming to school when they're sick. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that we need to have a heightened awareness as a community at large, that the impact of not being in school is pretty significant. And so whatever we can do to make sure that our families know, what the impact is, the better off we will be moving forward. So that's just as an FYI and a consistent push for you guys too, as presidents of President's Council, to connect with your buildings, continue to connect with me if you have ideas, really good ideas that you have that can help support. Certainly love to hear it, because we want to make sure that our children are in school. Okay, Acadians. So this is for priority one. With our DCEP was around improving outcomes for children in grades K through 2. This year we have made progress towards our goal of improving by a minimum of 5%. So we've surpassed where we were last year by was it 2.7% from last year. So we are on track to meeting our goal of being around 63% by the end of the school year. Tons more work needs to be put in order for that to happen. As the year moves on, the work gets harder for our kids. So we do need to continue to push as a district community to get us to where we want to go. We do have some charts here for you guys to pay attention to and give a look at. For our Hispanic learners, we are also on track for our Hispanic learners. We have grown by a similar percentage as the all students population. We're on track to meet that 5%. We want to surpass that 5% by the end of the year. Similarly, our Black population has already gotten to the space where we surpassed the 5% improvement. So we did connect again as a DLT to talk about how we want to elevate those expectations between now and the end of the school year. So we have made some improvements for our K-2. I do attribute that to the work that we're doing with Hegarty Foundations and implementation of the HMH curriculum for our early childhood. Now, reading performance for grades 3 through 8, the amount of progress is not the same as what we saw in K-2. It was very, very similar to last year. In fact, it was identical to last year, same time. Now, if you're asking me, Mike, did we grow from beginning of the year to now? The answer to that is 100%. We grew from beginning of the year to where we are at this point of the year. But overall, across grades 3 to 8, we are in the same place that we were last year, mid-year. So we are, as a team, we're gonna actually be meeting on Friday to discuss our next steps in terms of our action planning, to kind of pinpoint some of the areas for next steps. We do know that our work in MTSS and our work with HMH implementation is still ongoing, and we're going to continue to work towards making improvements in those areas. We saw a slight improvement for our Hispanic learners. Goal is to surpass that 44% on the state test by 5%. What we have seen is that, you know, even though the percentage of student performance by end of year is has been far lower than what the state test results are, and that's usually because iReady is very conservative. They don't give us the higher end; they'll give us to the lower end conservative point of view. So the goal is that we're going to continue to improve beyond this space by the end of the year. Again, very slight improvement for our Hispanic learners. Similarly, for our Black population, a little over 1%. The goal is that we should have been at 2.5% increase from then till now, so that we can reach that overall 5% by the end of the year. So part of the conversation that we're having with all of our schools is to really dig into what the MOI data said. Who are the children that made progress? Who are the children that are currently not making progress? And then establishing a plan of action, both for in-school, after school, before school supports for our children that need it. Similarly, in mathematics, very similar type of scenario. The one thing that I will say that I'm excited about, we have met the expectations for our children for Algebra 1. Algebra 1, the goal was that we would be above 5% improvement in terms of children that were at the high average range, which means what it translated into last year is that all the children that were high average actually performed in that 80 and above range on the Regents assessment. Right now, we are in a space where around 71% of our kids currently are performing at that high average, which is 5% above where we were last year already at this time. So the goal is that we're going to continue to surpass that. The same pattern exists for our Black and Hispanic learners who are on track to meet that 5% expectation, comparatively speaking to last year. So we have made progress for our Algebra 1 students. Overall, for iReady, the performance change was minimal as a district. So we have a lot more work to do in math, which is why I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we are putting in place that you'll see during some of these math nights that we're going to be putting together moving forward. Similar types of patterns for our Hispanic learners, about a 0.4 difference from where we were last year. And for our Black learners, just under 1% difference from where we were last year to where we are now. And I share those particular subgroups because those are the groups that we've identified as part of our DCEP goals. So what does this mean? For mathematics in particular, we've been really working on a couple of things with our schools, with our building leaders, and teacher leaders in our building. One is around a 3 reads protocol. It's a process to help kids get an understanding of what a question's asking them, and then coming up with a plan to solve it. And the other one is around math routines, making sure kids have flexibility with numbers. And that's something that we're doing across our grade levels, but in particular grades 5 through 8, to really support conceptual math understanding. So part of the Math Madness week, couple of weeks, is to really promote that expectation across our schools, so that our kids are as flexible with numbers as we possibly can be, because that's what they're going to be asked to do. Math problems are usually not very neat. They get a little bit messy and require our kids to be flexible in their thinking with numbers. So that's just kind of the current state of where we are with our District 25 data and our goals. So if anyone has any questions about it, feel free. I know I went through that data part a little quick, but if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. The
you're
PowerPoint
welcome.
presentation will be on the site, right?
It's
Yeah,
already
so-
up there. Yep.
Yeah. So if anybody, like wanted to take a look at it, you can go back and take a look at your own time as well. Absolutely.
And then any questions that come up, and I really encourage any feedback on, the attendance space or anything that you're feeling as a parent when it comes to mathematics or reading that you yourselves are seeing that you would love to give your feedback on. That's how we learn and grow. You guys are the ones that get to see your kids coming home with information. We have them all day, but they do come home to you and share what they're going to share about the work. So, please feel free, give us that feedback.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mike.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
Well, something I forgot to mention in the beginning, I don't know if you guys see it in the chat, but there's a sign up sheet. So if you can, please sign in. So there's no questions for Dr. Mike. Next on our list is drumroll, Wing-Yi Chung.
Hi,
Hi.
thank you for the
Hi,
introduction.
No problem.
Yeah, yes, I'm the district social worker. Just very quickly, I'm going to spend a little time talk about the effective executive functioning skills parent support series that I've been running in the district. So let me quickly share my screen.
Thank you, Wing, for being here. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the introductions. Once again, my name is Wing-Yi Chung. I'm the district social worker here. A little bit about my work here in the district. We support school with the social emotional learning program implementations. I also work very closely with our team here, the administrators of special educations, our student service manager, in supporting our school, individual classrooms, teachers, school counselors, social worker, and individual students as well in the school. A big part of my job is also communicating with parents, sometimes one-on-one, on connecting them to resources, talk a little bit about mental health support or community resources. A big part of that is also to connect our parents and families with the community resources here in Queens. This executive functioning skills series, I run it about 3 times with Esther and Jenny. And we run it in English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese. I call it a parent support series mostly because I really want to facilitate a dialogue between parents. A lot of times I think the answers is really within our own group and not necessarily coming from me, but really through our dialogue and sharing with each other. What works for you? What are some of your challenges? So this is meant to be sort of more of a smaller scales, and I've run it mostly in person. This is the first time that I'm running it sort of virtually, sort of like a simplified version of what I'm doing with some of the groups that we run in the school. Okay. So this is usually the agenda for the workshops that I do. It's about an hour and a half with parents. Talk a little bit about what is executive functioning, what are some of the things you might see at home if your child is experiencing some difficulty with the skills. Also some of the practical resources that we can use at home. So let's very quickly, what is executive functioning skill actually? It is actually a cognitive process, a set of cognitive processes that help us self-regulate, it helps us plan and prioritize, and sort of help us achieve goals, right? By goals, we really mean both long-term goals and short-term goals. Whether you want to get into a performance art high school, right? We have to think about the different steps toward that goal. Maybe we have to attend orientation sessions, talk to some alumni. Maybe we have to start building a portfolio, taking some voice coaching lessons, right? This is multi-steps and maybe 1 or 2 years planning. This is a long-term goal. Or a short-term goal, like how do I get to school on time tomorrow, right? How do I set my alarm clock, pack up my backpack, pick out my outfits, and how and when do I need to get out of my house in order to get to school on time, right? So both of these short-term goal and long-term goals really require executive functioning skills. More specifically, here you can see what actually are some of the skills that's included in executive functioning skills. You can see it here. A lot of the skills are actually related to emotion regulations, right? How do we manage our emotions? How do we resist temptation and distraction and being able to stay on task? How do we manage our time and our space and organize ourselves and set goals? Right? Here, flexible thinking, Dr. Mike mentioned that a little bit earlier in terms of math. Flexible thinking has to do with how do we adjust our behavior, problem solve with sort of unexpected changes at times, right? Sometimes we might be hearing students in the school who have difficulty transitioning, right? Going from cafeteria back to the classroom or going from the gym back to the classrooms. Some of our students might need a little bit more time to prepare. Especially if there's been time when, let's say, there's a substitute teacher today, someone that they're unfamiliar with. These unexpected changes, sometimes our children might need a little time to prepare ourselves. Working memory here is really related to our ability to retain information, short-term information, and being able to use them and manipulate them to achieve goals. It's a little bit different than attention because attention is really our ability to take in information, where working memory is about how we retain information and being able to use it. A simple example of that would be like remembering directions. When I ask somebody for verbal directions, I have to really remember them and be able to navigate and get to where I need to be. But you know what, 2 hours later, I probably completely forgotten about those directions. And it's fine because I only need those memory to work at the moment for me to get from A to B, right? So here I was gonna ask everybody to sort of like chime in and like, let's make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and pack that for lunch. Not gonna do that here with everyone today, but if you're really thinking about this, a very simple task of packing a sandwich, right? When I actually sat down and write down all the steps, it's actually not that simple. It takes, for me, about 10 steps to get that done. Some might be more, some might be less, and your health depending on your household. But just a simple task of asking our kids to pack a sandwich and bring it for lunch, it's actually not as simple as it looks. And some of our children do have difficulty transitioning from a step to another step, right? Some of our children also have difficulty breaking down a task like this into smaller steps, right? But the good news is that even though executive functioning skills are not something that we're necessarily born with, but it is definitely a skill that we can continue to practice. And with consistency and encouragement, most children do improve in these skills. Some of the children that might have experienced more difficulty with executive functioning skills are maybe children who are diagnosed with ADHD, ADD, autistic spectrum disorder, dyslexia, anxiety, or depressions. But just because a child might have some difficulty with executive functioning skills, that doesn't mean that they have these diagnoses, right? So those are still require a lot of professional evaluations by mental health professionals. I've covered some of this, just having plenty of opportunities at home and also in school to help them practice these skills are going to be very helpful. Environmental impacts such as trauma, neglect, and abuse also have an impact on executive functioning skills development as well. One thing that I want to remind everybody to really think about is that just a lot of times when we look at children who struggle with executive functioning skills, we might be thinking that they are lazy or unmotivated. Just wanted to encourage everybody to kind of shift that mindset a little bit, right? Just because executive functioning skills actually live in the prefrontal part of the brain that help us manage a lot of these different skills. And they're actually really complicated, complex skills. It takes a ring until like about late 20s to really fully develop that part of our brain. So it's definitely a work in progress for adults as well, right? I could totally attest to that. I still need a lot of organization and planning skills can still improve. All right, so I'm gonna play this little video very quickly. Let me see if you can hear it. Esther, I'm gonna rely on you to let me know.
Okay.
Does a morning like this sound familiar?
Mom, where's my notebook?
I told you to be ready 5 minutes ago.
But I didn't do my homework.
I can't have another morning like this. I'm tired of yelling.
Your shirt is dirty. You have to wear something else.
Fine, then I'm not going.
What you may not realize is that these are signs of executive functioning challenges. Executive functioning, or EF, is a set of skills located in the front part of the brain. This part of the brain helps us get and do what we want and need. This is the last part of the brain to develop, a process that ends when we're about 30 years old. Time is on your side. Time to teach your child how to use their strengths to build skills and use their environment to support their success. Here are some specific examples of how EF plays out in the morning routine. The child who insists on wearing the dirty shirt may struggle with flexibility. The child who lost their notebook might have challenges staying organized. The child who didn't do their homework or forgot to put it in their backpack may have difficulty with planning. The child who didn't remember to get ready when their parent gave them a 5-minute warning probably had working memory struggles. The child who slammed the door is probably having a hard time regulating their feelings. EF difficulties can affect everyone, especially when there is a lot going on. This is true of us parents, too. We may feel overwhelmed or stressed with our own EF demands. We might yell, or swear, or slam the cabinet door. It can be tough for us to get ourselves and our kids out the door with everything they need on time. Now that you can see how many EF skills go into something like a morning routine, just imagine all the times that there are like this throughout the day. EF skills are essential to daily life, and understanding this helps you view your child in a different way. Just by starting to understand your child's EF strengths and challenges, you can support them in new ways and have fewer meltdowns and breakdowns triggered in your home. Think of these skills over your next morning routine and see how many EFs are needed. The Unstuck and On Target resources can help. Does a morning like this sound familiar?
Nope. All right. So after watching that video, I think I only have about 15 minutes left. So usually this is the part where I'm gonna ask our parents to really share some of the things they might be seeing at home, and see if any of these resonate, right? So this is kind of the part where you might see if the students or children is struggling with executive functioning skills, what are some of the things that you might see at home? And I have it listed here. And the next part of this presentation would be about practical resources. This is really the part where I'm asking our audience and participants to really come in and kind of share some of the things that they have worked for them before, and also maybe some of the challenges that they have, to see if there's any kind of sharing different tips that we can with each other. This is really the part where I really want to facilitate a dialogue with our parents, right? And before I go into that, I like to share this quote. This is coming from the Center on Developing Child. This is from Harvard University. They have a really thorough study and research on executive functioning and self-regulations. Here, just gonna really quickly read this, is adults can really facilitate the development of a child's executive functioning skills by establishing routines, modeling social behavior, and creating and maintaining supportive, reliable relationships. It is also important for children to exercise their developing skills through activities that foster creative play and social connection. Teach them how to cope with stress, involve rigorous exercise, and over time provide opportunities for directing their own actions with decreasing adult supervisions. I highlighted the last part of this paragraph is because I've been to some of these sessions where parents just asking, like, how long do I have to help and support my kids to like write down everything, checklist everything, stuck to a routine, and have this like scheduled? The answer is really trying to do it so that our children can master their skill, right? Achieve the mastery that they can with certain skills, and so that we can decrease adult supervision over time. And the first thing to really think about is really your children learning styles. Are they auditory learner? Are they visual learners? Do they need to move around in order to remember certain things and actually see and touch it in order to remember? And try to see where their strengths are and where they might need some support, right? And then I go into a little bit more specific and different skills that we mentioned earlier, that's included in the executive functioning skills. The first one is around planning, prioritizing, and time management. The first thing really I wanted to talk about is, before we even go into helping our children organize and manage their time, we really need to make sure that we establish a good routine, right? Think about the hierarchy of needs, where we are talking about making sure that they have enough sleep, right? Exercise, movement, healthy diets, and the structure, right? Doesn't matter if we put in the best system for our kids to manage their time and space. If they don't have a good night's sleep, they're not going to be able to execute these plans. So the routine is really a priority for us. A lot of this support that I'm mentioning can work with the younger kids, and you can also adjust it to older kids. And the key is really to try to create opportunities for a lot of support in the beginning, so that we can help them achieve mastery in their skills and then decrease the adult supervision part. Okay, a lot of opportunity upfront. Using a checklist or a to-do list. These are things that maybe we have already done it ourselves, but if we can kind of introduce these sort of organization skills to our kids earlier, then they will be able to kind of do it and sort of advocate and try to organize themselves, right? When we're talking about making a schedule together, right? Having a timetable of, let's say, after school time, try to have a better schedule for those few hours after school. This is really a collaborations. I know that we probably have an idea about what we want them to do with their time, but with collaboration, with their input, we're just gonna get their buy-in so much better, right? Again, using a timer, for our younger kids, the concept of time is very vague. Even for adults, if I'm asking you to count to 10 minutes, it's probably very hard for anybody to really tell me exactly what 10 minutes is like, right? So having a visual timer can really be helpful. Something like a kitchen timer or even like a countdown clock can be helpful for them to teach, right, how to tell time, but also they will be able to visually see the time going down instead of relying on us to sort of verbally continuously tell them 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, right? Using a planner, there's a lot of e-version planner out there now on apps. So if anybody who has who's using a cell phone, the visual planner, there's a lot of e-version of that as well. Here I also have two different. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. So this is a goal setting calendar that I got from understood.org. It is a very good resource for our parents, especially for parents with neurodivergent students. They have a lot of different tips and practical tips for parents who can help their kids to, like this one particularly is about setting goals. It's not just about one goal, right? Cleaning my room for the month, but a lot of different steps that they could help you identify, or additional step that you might come up with your child to really come up with, hey, what do we want to achieve for the month? And having this monthly calendar where you can sort of plan out your goals. And at the end here, you can see they have listed all the little steps that will help them achieve that big goal and helping them with the calendar to mark what day where we achieve a certain steps of that goal. So this is very helpful, and I encourage anybody who is interested and have time to really go there on understood.com. It has a lot of great resources. For our old, sort of older kids, let's see if I can go back to my. So my regular programming. For the older kids, I have another little planning activities that you can kind of consider to do, which is a plan that you can do maybe on a Sunday where we're going to work out like the weekly calendar, talk about the school assignments that are coming up, or any sort of commitments, right? Sport practices or appointments, dental appointments, or having like a meeting with a friend. Sort of listed that out and ask our children to really think about the different assignments and how long it might take. Let's say if you have a book report that's due, think about what steps we need to take in order to get that done, and think about each assignments, different tasks, how long may it take, and really mark out your calendar that way. And then really also build in time where we can review and reflect on it. Does it work? Do we need extra time? So these are like different sort of techniques that we can help to manage our time better. I'm trying to go back to my PowerPoint. Hold on. Stop sharing for a little bit and share again. Okay.
This book is read with permission from Diane Albert.
See? Everything has to create piles.
I'm sorry, this is.
The highest art is beautiful.
Sorry, let me stop sharing again. Okay, so with the next part of this, let me just go back to that. So the next part of the skills will be about organization and managing space. This is about decluttering or minimizing distractions in the space, right? You can see that I have different pictures, so we can help the parents to really think about visualizing how they want to manage the space. And that's including your home space, your study space, and also even your living room space, right? How do we kind of make that organized and help declutter and also minimize distractions? This is the part where we talk a little bit about how do we work with homework and work in a break. If some of the students that we have on some of the children we have, when they see a worksheet like this, they might already be kind of discouraged. This feels like a lot, and maybe they might be a little bit easier getting distracted. So some of the way that we can help them is to break down some of these worksheets, right? One of the way is maybe even one of the parents have shared before is having like another sheet to really cover the whole worksheets, but just leaving the top part first. Let's just do the top 6 questions, and then we work in a break. And then we can then move on to the next 6 questions. That way we have a clear instruction and structure as to like how much we're going to do at a time, and then also having a break in between where they can really see creating that routine and structures. This is the space that we talk about, managing a space and organizing. I'm not going to go too much into it. Having this sort of study zone, I talk about some of the family might not have a designated study area. So your dining table may be also your studying table, and also your the table that you eat on. So how do we kind of creating that space where we can encourage them to think about studying? This is your zone right now, right? So this picture here, you can use something like a poster board where you can post your schedule and also your little maybe goal for the month and all the materials that you might need in order to help you study and do your homework, and sort of have that up while there's time for the homework and study, and sort of take it out once you finish, and then now we can have dinner on the same table, right? So thinking about different ways to manage our space more creatively to help minimize distraction. With flexibility, we're talking about problem solving, right? Flexible thinking. So one way that we can really encourage our kids to think about creative problem solving, right? Let's plan a weekend together, and then think about what can we do in terms of what do you want to do on the weekend, and thinking about all the what ifs and the possibility to really plan ahead and help them be flexible in terms of like, okay, if this happened, if this changes, what can I do? We can also model how we solve problems ourselves, because I'm sure as parents, it's probably many things that didn't go the way we planned in a day, right? So being able to be transparent about that thought process, about even how you feel about certain thing, how you come to resolve that issues, can be very helpful for our children.
This book.
With working memory, it's really about when we think about working memory, it's kind of like a temporary sticky note in our brain. So it might need ourselves to like repeat, incorporate repetitions where we might have to repeat ourselves with instructions. We might have to break down a task into many small pieces and kind of give our instruction one at a time. We might need to ask them to repeat back, right? What did I just say? Can you repeat back to me? So to make sure that we're checking that they understand. Some of the things that might be very helpful is like using a highlighter or underline when you have homework and you're going home and you have a worksheet. Usually the most important information is on top of the worksheet, where you might want to like ask them to underline or highlight the very important pieces of information on top, so that again as a visual reminder, so that we understand what's the most important part of that worksheet, right? Some of the games that we can also play, Crazy 8 or Go Fish, those are really great games for working memory also. And the last is really about regulating our emotions. How do we manage our emotions? Again, that takes practice and model, right? Before our kids learn how to self-regulate, usually it requires a period of time where we can co-regulate, building that relationship with our children and learning how kind of regulate emotions together. Understand, I can see that you're frustrated now. Can we take some deep breath together? Again, also plan ahead, right? There's certain triggers that we might be aware. Let's say if today looks like we're gonna have indoor recess, we can talk about that a little bit, right? Maybe our kids really would get upset if they don't get to go out for recess. And we see the weather today, and we probably want to have that conversations, right? Preparing them and think about alternatives. What can we do in those situations? So that's kind of sum up a very simplified versions of my presentations and my workshop with the parents. This is usually an hour and really require a lot more like dialogue with our parents. So if you're interested in bringing this to your school, please let me know or let Esther know, and so we can come up with some dates. Let me stop sharing. See if there's any questions.
Thank you.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. Those YouTube videos just keep playing and it's like driving me crazy.
It's okay, it happens.
Yeah, it was great actually. A lot of it to me, I don't know about you guys, but it did seem, you know, familiar. Especially because but with me, I have 3 teenagers in the house right now, but there's a lot of working out through times and when to do what. One of my saviors, quote unquote, my saviors is the alarm. Like I use it more times throughout the day, like even just shower time. Like I had to put myself on mute because it was like reminding me A2 needs to go shower now. A3 needs to go shower to take turns. And then I would have them prepare stuff the night before. That I think that helps a lot. You know, when the kids get ready, so you don't, you know, you kind of eliminate the fighting in the morning about what to wear, or when you have to tell them you have to change or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the key is really try to understand like your child learning style. What are some of the ways that they learn, right? A lot of kids actually need a combination of auditory and visual combinations, right? You can't just rely on, it's exhausting for us to have to remind our kids like go take a shower now, right? So if you can have a visual, right, where they could really see maybe the schedule or maybe having a timer that they can see to remind themselves, okay, I have 10 more minutes or I have 5 more minutes, and then the next activities. It's actually save us time too, because at the end of the day, like you don't want to be the one who keep reminding them every single task that they need to do, right? So thank you,
Yeah.
Christine.
No
In the
problem. Thank
comments,
you.
Annie from 185 says this was great. Thank you, Wing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and then obviously those who have middle school students, middle school children versus elementary school children, those skills will be kind of different, right? Because it will be maybe not so much about setting a timer, but like some reminder of using an alarm or having some device that could help them, because there's also a lot of apps these days online that help with executive functioning, which include how do you break down a task, listing the steps, doing checklists. I know we don't want to rely on our phone so much these days, but there is actually some really great apps out there that can help with executive functioning as well.
Yeah, I actually saw an ad for it. I don't know if you guys seen it. You guys will definitely see it now since I'm talking about it because our phones are listening to us. But there is an app where it was like about cleaning, right? Like where it was like a checklist of like doing the bed or you know like things like that, and it was a whole ad, and they said parents can use it too. It will help you with like you know dishes and you know when to do what. And they said it, you know, you feel satisfied because you're clicking it and you're like, I completed this for this day. And that works out really good. I would be actually interested in trying to get some of our middle school parents engaged, because one of the parts that was mentioned before was, when do you really start to get the kids to be on their own? And I think really 6th grade, you know, to start to do things and remember things on their own. I think that's a really perfect time, because middle school's so short. They grow the most, but yet it's so short. So I feel like that's a great opportunity. You know, maybe start them a little bit in 5th grade, but then 6th grade, they're, you know, you take the training wheels off, and then 7th and then 8th, oh, they're taking regents.
Well, yeah, too, Christine, the transition too from elementary to middle. Also
Yeah.
that whole space of independence changes quite a bit. You know,
Yeah.
from I'm walking with my whole class to my classroom to now I'm
Walking
getting
by
to the class
myself.
by myself, you know, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of that space that kids have to learn through. Some of them do it really much better than others, right, at the very beginning. And in large part, the kids that struggle are those that struggle managing themselves. You know,
Yeah.
oh, I dropped a pencil and I'm going to look for it for 10 minutes before I can get myself up to go to my next class. You know, those are the little things sometimes that you know, cause kids to kind of that 2 steps forward, 3 steps back routine at the middle school level.
Yeah.
Annie added something. She said time management, work management, avoiding procrastination.
Yes. I mean, they even have the focus feature, right, on our phones.
Yes.
It's really, I mean, I hate that I'm being recorded and saying this, but it's really our phones that are. I saw this meme was like, oh, you know, like, how did my mom get laundry and everything done, whatever? It's because she didn't have a phone. Right? Everybody was more able to get more things done back then, because we didn't have the device to you know, constantly look at, to you know, to remind us. Or
Yeah. So when we talk about minimizing distractions, right? Even though alarm on our phone is very convenient, I try to sort of not discourage, but really think about alternative, like a kitchen timer, or even if you put on like a screen, like a YouTube countdown clock, it's a little better than like having a phone next to, you know, you, and being able to look at the clock, because it's so easy to just like click on other things when you have a phone nearby. So anything that we can help to kind of minimize distractions is sort of where I'm trying to encourage, you know, parents to try.
yeah, I have to go buy a timer. I don't even, oh my God, I don't even have a clock in my house. Because it's like, you know, you have your microwave or your oven that tells you the time. I really don't have the clock anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little comment about procrastination. Sometimes it's not so much about them like being lazy or unmotivated. Sometimes I mentioned it earlier with the peanut butter and jelly sort of experiment. Sometimes our kids need some support in terms of when they see a big task, like let's say they have a big book report due in 2 weeks. They need a little more support to think about the steps. Sometimes what's the first thing I need to do, and then the second, and then the third. And then that's when the weekly sort of calendar, when you can kind of sit down, you know, maybe on a Sunday and look ahead to see what needs to be done, and think about like, how long do you think you would need to read like 2 chapters of this book? How long do you think it would need for you to do? Right? Like to have that conversations and sort of work it into your calendar so that they, and then of course you have to build in a system where you will want to reflect and think about, if you think you only need 2 hours and you end up taking you 3, then you want to readjust that as well, right? So like procrastination sometimes is not coming from like being unmotivated, but maybe the task is so big that they have a hard time thinking how do they break it down, right? So just really again thinking about where that sort of the cause of that problem may be.
I
Right.
agree. We have our
Thank you
work
so
cut out.
much.
Thank you. So with that, does anybody have any questions or anything, comments or anything like that? Will your PowerPoint presentation be available online, or is it just by like we have to contact you to?
Yeah, I can share that.
Folder. It'll be in the share folder.
Okay. All right. So you guys know where to find it. And with that, Esther,
How
you
you
have
going?
the floor.
Thank you. So Barbara Marcisak was gonna be here. Unfortunately, she could not make it. So she sent me a little blurb. So as we know, the ELA testing is April 11th through 12th. The math testing is May 7th through the 8th. And science will be May 15th through the 17th. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and tell you what she went ahead and hope I don't get logged out. All right, can you guys see my screen? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so
PPT is online.
you guys see it?
Mm-hmm.
So let me look at my notes that she sent me. So give me 1 second. Oh,
Whoa.
all right.
For base testing.
So this slide is just giving you an idea of where we're at when it's gonna come to you know, computer-based testing. So starting in 2025, schools will be required to participate in this CBT for grades 4, 5th, and 8th. And so it tells you right here, there's a little graph. So this is where we're at, where the green arrow's at. So 2024, you're looking at computer-based testing for grades 5th through 8th. And then come the spring of 2025, which will be next year, you'll see the grades 4, 5, 6, and 8. And then spring 2026, you'll go ahead and see, you know, more grades. So she wanted me to share this information with you. Your school will be able to give you more details, but the reason she wanted me to share was, I'm going to go to the next, it's not letting me go. Oops. Oh boy. All right. So this is where parents could go ahead and go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go. So this is where parents could go ahead and get practice. And as this will be in the shared folder so that you guys could go ahead and click on that link and you guys could go ahead and practice with your students. And then also, this is how they could go ahead and get access for practice tests and what are the, you know, what practice there are for 4th grade math, 4th grade ELA, and 3rd grade science practices tests. And so you could guys go ahead and, you know, check that out to go ahead and help your student. If you have any questions or anything regarding to testing, let me know and I will go ahead and let Barbara Marcisak know and get you the answer, but your school is a level where you would get any information. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Your school will be the level where you would go ahead and get any information that you have in regards to testing. The other thing that I wanted to tell you, elections are coming up. Elections for the PAPTA should be conducted before the last day of school. So as a PAPTA president, start gearing up, start finding your nominating committee, start asking people if you are staying and you want to run, that would be great. And it would be greatly appreciated. But if you're graduating out, it is time to start looking for somebody to step up and help you out. Make sure that you select a nominating committee to run your elections. If you need any help when it comes to election, remember that elections have to be there's no hybrid. It's either all in person or all online. There's no in between. So if you need any help with that, in the past, Francis Gonzalez and the board used to go around and help run the elections. If you need any help running your elections, please make sure you contact the President's Council and myself to get you on the schedule, to get you the help that you need so that you could be in compliance and have a successful incoming PAPTA. I wanted to thank all the schools for submitting their interim financial report that was due on 1/31. I still have 3 schools that are missing. And we're working with the PAPTA to get those done as soon as possible. But to everybody else, thank you so much for having your paperwork in order. Thank you so much for submitting. Again, like I told you, there's 3 schools and they're work in progress. Other than that, that's it. And our next meeting, I'll stick around to see if you guys have any questions. And the next meeting for President's Council will be on March 18th. I would like to let you guys know that I will not be at that meeting, but my colleague Jenny Chang and my colleague Louis Latito will be taking over that meeting. And also Rachel will be feeling better, and everybody else, Myrna and Christine will be here to go ahead and guide that meeting for you guys. Other than that, back to you, Christine, if you want to close out the meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if anybody have any more questions, comments, anything. If not,
Hi, I have one question. Melinda from
I'm
are we allowed to do the PTA elections in May instead of doing it in June?
Yeah. I mean, you have till the last day of June to do your elections, but most schools start doing them end of April and in May. The sooner the better.
Okay, and right now we have a president and co-president, but it's always so hard to fill up the co-president position. Are we allowed to take away the co-president?
So you need to look at your bylaws, your school bylaws. Your school bylaws should say when they list the positions, it should say president, comma, and co-president. If it says that, you're able to have either or.
Okay.
If it only says co-presidents, then you have to amend your bylaws before your election to go ahead and add president dash co-president. So that way in your elections, if you have Esther that wants to run by herself and Christine and Wing want to run co, you could go ahead and have that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So check your bylaws, school bylaws. If that wording is there, you're set to go. People could run as by themselves or as co's. And if it's not on there, make sure you amend your bylaws to go ahead and add that wording to your bylaws.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
I have a question with regards to funds for PTA. Is there a maximum amount that we are allowed to carry over from year to year, or?
It's
So-
about,
Go ahead, Christine, I'm sorry.
well, she correct me if I'm wrong, right? But it's about $5,000 unallocated funds. You want to spend as much as you have made. And unallocated means, you know, like sometimes maybe you have like a school store. You want to make sure that you have funds for that for the next team to start up. But yeah. Esther, was I right or wrong?
Yeah, so you're not gonna find on Chancellor's regulation A660 is not gonna tell you an allocated amount. And your bylaws are not gonna tell you an allocated amount for your PAPTA. But if you're a PAPTA that has $15,000 and you're gonna leave that to the incoming PAPTA, then you didn't spend that money in your kids. You raise the money to spend the money with the kids during that year. And as a courtesy, you leave the incoming PAPTA money so they could start and not be, a negative. So you at your school know exactly if they need, $2,000. If you buy, a lot of the schools used to buy the yearly planner, the yearly booklets. So a lot of the exiting PTA would go ahead and pay that for the incoming school year, and that just became tradition. But you don't want to leave a PAPTA more than $10,000. That means that you should spend as much as you can on the kids during this year. I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thank you.
All right, are there any more questions?
Esther?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. Hi, Annie.
Okay. The computer-based testing, do we know if the tests are just computer-based or are they adaptive?
Oh, I don't know that. I would have to ask Barbara Marsasat.
They are computer-based.
Okay, thank you,
There's
Louis.
the tests don't change at all. These are the state tests that kids
Okay,
take
so it's
every
not
year.
like how the iReady or
iReady,
the
I know, yeah,
SATs
no,
are
it's
now
not.
It's not
adaptive.
like iReady, Annie, no.
No.
Great question, Annie.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, these are standardized assessments, so you're not going to get, you know, any fluctuation in it, and it's not using a growth model.
Perfect.
It's just
Great.
The only difference is some students will have questions in a different order, but the questions are the same.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any more questions or anything?
I have a question. This is Pisces, 1 p.m. 32 State Street.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
As you know, our parent coordinator recently left, and she was taking care of our SLT. We have a stand-in for the president position on the SLT, and that person for some reason isn't showing up as an option to select so that they can get credit for attending the meetings on our behalf.
So this is something that Margaret and I were working on and kept emailing Face in regards. In the past, you were allowed to go ahead and designate somebody for SLT, and there was a section in SBLCI to go ahead and enter that. With they're updating the system, they removed that section. I know that she emailed a few people before she left, and we did contact Face. I will follow up. I thought that was already entered.
Okay, no, when right before she left, she had showed me the screen where the SLT on Face, I guess, and the designee, her name is not able to be entered, or it's not even on there. So I just wanted to follow up and make sure that, you know, that's taken care of.
I will go ahead and follow up on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, are there any more questions? It's 7:51. Meeting is adjourned.
You have to vote. You have to ask to close.
Oh. Somebody approved me to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mike. I just like lost all my words. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
Lopez approved. Ever
Thank
Lopez.
you.
So you have two. You have three. Michelle Leos.
Yay.
Everybody. All right,
Everybody
we'll stick around if you have any questions. At this time, we'll go ahead and stop the recording.